Today's topic is 6 tips to help your clients get better sleep. And I'm sure most trainers out there listening in have had this question many, many times from clients. It's a question I get a lot from clients. And in fact, I had a call with a new Cricket Matters client this morning. Shout out to Henry in Sydney, Australia. He asked me about wanting to improve his sleep as well. So we will go through 6 tips. But before we do that, James, how's your sleep? Do you have a routine or anything off the top of your head without going into what tips we're going to give that you do? Actually, no, you're gonna spill one, aren't you? Because you've just said it.
No, I don't. It doesn't happen all the time. But when I do it, I'll spill out in a second. For me, it's but I'm not necessarily following the mold here in the tips that people offer. So a lot of people offer, say, stop watching screen time or stop watching this. I find for me, watching screen like something on my iPad before I go to bed helps me wind down because my brain works at 1,000,000 miles an hour most of the time. So I like to watch a TV series.
Basically, you've just broken the rule that we're going to give.
I know. So there's a rule. So that's the thing. You've got to find what works best for most people. And everyone keeps saying the same things over again. But it's important to adapt them to whatever works for you or your clients. Now, the golden rules are this. But for some people, it doesn't work. Like anything, like nutrition or training, something doesn't work for some people, it does for other people. But for me personally, my one thing I like to do at night time is I like to sit back, watch something on my iPad, which is, what did I watch last night? Monsters Legacy, the new series on Apple TV. I watched that last night, just before I go to bed. And then the other thing I like to do is I like to listen to an audiobook. So I listen to an audiobook to help me sleep better. So it helps me wind down. So I'm listening to some things, whatever I'm listening to at the moment. Something light-hearted. I'm listening to the autobiography of Stuart Broad at the moment, a famous cricketer. So that helps me de-wind and makes me sleep better. And I find if I don't switch off from everything work, my brain runs 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I can't sleep properly. So that's what my routine is most of the time. One of those 3 at least.
Yeah. Well, it's as you say, it's being able to wind down, because I find my mind races a lot and there's lots of stuff going around in my head. I think about work quite a lot and what I've got to do and got to do this for this client, that client. It's hard to switch off. So one of the tips and recommendations is that you do switch off screens ideally 90 minutes before. Obviously, it's down to blue light. Stops your hormones and helping you get to sleep naturally. So it interferes with your circadian rhythms a little bit. But as James said, for him, he finds that it works. So it is, take this with a pinch of salt, I guess, because it might work for some people. Doesn't work for me. I know if like Liz is on her phone in bed while I'm trying to get to sleep, got my eyes closed, but I can see it. I can see it behind my eyelids. So that definitely one for me is turning off screens. Artificial light. Not the best. Again, obviously, electricity and modern age as that affects our sleep as well. So it's important to dim your lights, turn them off. I don't know. Would you sit in the dark? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I found this every time I go back to my parents' place. So where my bedroom is at my parents' place, it's now the spare bedrooms they've turned it into. I'm disgusted by it. How dare they? Right? So it's above the garage. And it's like an extension built onto it, and you've got a skylight. And what they have is a complete blind that blacks out the whole room. So you close the 2 doors, and you put it's a complete blackout. I always sleep better at my parents for 2 things. Well, I sleep better until one thing happens, and I'll tell you that in a second. But I literally sleep better because it's pitch black, right? It's so quiet. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's on a blooming farm, so you can't hear anything here. Until you get woken up by the cockerel, or the rooster in American terms, at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. He just goes cock-a-doodle-doo like crazy outside. So for me, like, the pitch black thing is so important. You don't realise how much you need it until you have it for the first time. And then even then you sleep longer. Like, I just find, like, I will happily naturally sleep in, whereas in Cardiff, because the curtains are not quite as dark, obviously it's lighter outside, street lights, etc., I'll tend to wake up a lot earlier. But at home, completely blacked out, I'm sleeping in like a baby, an extra hour sometimes at least.
Yeah, exactly. So make your room Make your room dark, nice dark, and also cool as well. It's, as we know, in England, not in England. Sorry, James, I've insulted you there. In Britain, and in the summer, when it gets hot very occasionally, we don't have air conditioning in this country, and sleeping at night when it's hot is really, really tough. So apparently an ideal temperature for your room is between 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit, so cooler room for sure, so dark and cool. And this is something you do.
No, but just saying on that note of staying cool, something I do that I don't often do, because I prefer showering in the morning to get myself here, but when I do train late in the evening, I'm doing some kind of sport, or I want to just I've been out doing something all day, I need to have a shower. I find that having a hot shower late at night really helps me sleep better long term. So make sure it's really hot, because basically the whole body starts to cool down, and the body needs to cool down for your sleep patterns, right? That's what they all talk about, having a cool room to sleep in, yeah? So it just brings down the core temperature slightly, so it helps you sleep better. So for me personally, it's another tip, but also what all the science boffins in terms of sleep say as well. It's like trying to bring the temperature down, so having a hot shower improves your ability to sleep better at night.
Exactly. But also, again, if you want to try with cold water, and you're that kind of person, you could try cold water as well. But most of the science out there does suggest that a hot shower or bath will have you a more restful night's sleep. Also, having a wind down ritual, as you said, James, you sometimes read a book. I've used sort of relaxation techniques. I've listened to like classical music on YouTube. I've mindfulness, again, use mindfulness apps. That seems to help sort of turn my brain down a little bit is the easiest way. So having a good wind down ritual. And anything else you've used, James, besides reading?
Yeah, again, going back to that original, I like that word better actually. I think a wind down ritual is a better way to talk about it. So my wind down ritual is quite literally this: I go upstairs to bed, I brush my teeth, do a bit of a wash, make sure everything's ready to go. I get into bed, I'll put my phone on its charger, I'll open up my iPad, I will literally then start watching a TV show. If I'm not really into it, I'll literally turn it off, because sometimes I can feel myself falling asleep naturally with it. But then I pretty much always like to, now when I'm sleeping on my own, is like I like to put an audiobook on and I listen to the audiobook, which helps me go into a deeper sleep. It just helps me wind over and I pass out a lot faster. So that technically is my wind down ritual. Out of all those things, the wash, then the audiobook is probably the most important that I do.
Very nice. And finally, last but not least, is nutrition, and obviously it plays a big part. Try and eat at least 2 hours before you go to sleep it's the general advice. Most people have probably heard that, but again, it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. But me and Liz, we eat quite late at night generally, because by the time we got the kids to bed and I've come down and cooked a meal or something, it is about 9 o'clock usually. But I'm a bit of a night owl, so I don't go to bed straight away. So that works for us. But James, how does that affect you at all when the time you eat in terms of sleep?
No, I like to eat early in the evening. I think most of my eating's done by about 5 p.m. mostly, unless I'm going out for food with family and friends. Just because I'm up early, I like to eat that way. It just tends to work better. So if anything, if I was going through my daily rituals and how I do things, I don't tend to eat anything until about midday. I don't fast per se, but it's a natural way of doing things. I tend to be more productive. And then between 12 and 5, I eat most of my food. And then after 5 p.m, I may have something light. Like what did I have last night? I had a mince pie. There we go, it's Christmas here. So I had a mince pie literally as part of my wind down ritual last night. But for me, the one thing I do know is that because I'm going through this diet phase at the moment, I'm playing and experimenting, I think is the best way to put it, with intermittent fasting. And I do 1 day a week of a fasted period. So today, for example, I'm going through a full complete fast. What I do know, and I've what experienced in the last 6 to 9 weeks now, is that on days that I fast, my sleep quality is poorer. So, and that's tracked, and that's the data coming across, not just me anecdotally saying it. You can tell on my watch, I sleep less, and I also have less deep sleep, is what I'm finding. However, I do feel better for it in terms of the following day starting to eat again. I sleep better the following night. But it's something that's coming up on my data from, we talked about it on the smartwatch the other day. Based on that data and how I feel, it doesn't give me the best sleep. So I need to be mindful of that. So the following day, my workouts are less intense, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So we did those in kind of a funky order, so I'm going to run through them quickly so that everyone knows. We have done 6 tips. We kind of merged them all together, though. So first tip, try and cut off your exposure to screens about 90 minutes before bed, if that works for you. Nutrition, try and stop eating 2 hours before you go to bed. Have a wind-down ritual. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's some sort of meditation or listening to a podcast, perhaps, something like that. Take a hot shower or bath before bed. And then tips 5 and 6 is all about your sleeping environment. Make sure it's nice and dark and nice and cool, and hopefully that will help you get much better sleep. And better sleep is better recovery, and it means you can train harder and more efficiently. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly. Who doesn't love sleep?
Exactly. I love sleep. I don't get a lot of it because I've got 2 young kids, but I do love sleep. When I get to have a lie-in on the weekend, it's the greatest thing in the entire world. I'm sure parents listening out there can fully sympathise with me. That is it for today. Please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe. And if you want to find out more about our system of training, go to strengthmatters.com/system.